Some brands offer you low finance, or cashback, or servicing.
Renault don't do ors. We do ands. The Renault Kadjar with 1.91% APR and €1,000 cashback and 3 years servicing, saving you thousands. Renault, the brand with the ands. Visit your local Renault dealer. Finance is made under a hire purchase agreement. Terms and conditions apply. Deposit required. Subject to lending criteria. See Renault.ie.
Previously on Coffee with Kenobi.
The staying at the resort also means you're a part of the story too, and it includes wardrobe. Is that right?
Wow.
Yeah, that's. So I don't know what that means. Oh, I'm thinking I'm going to stay in the Stormtrooper suite. Here's your armor, Mr. Zare.
Just polish it up for you. Yeah,
that would be cool, right?
This is James Arnold Taylor, and you're listening to Coffee with Kenobi. I have a good feeling about this.
Hello and welcome to Coffee with Kenobi. I'm your host, Dan Z, enjoying a fresh cup of coffee in my Disney AT-AT coffee mug from Disneyland, which I got last year when we flew to Hollywood. Welcome to our new listeners, and hello again to each and every member of our Coffee with Kenobi family. Thank you so much for being here and for sharing a cup of coffee with me each and every week. Joining me today is the co-host of Legends Library, Luke Siders.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Doing great. Thanks for being back on the show. This is the first time you've been on since we reviewed Rogue One, so it's great to have you back.
Yeah, yep. Right now we're in the middle of the new Jedi Order series, which is long. So there's been some great books in there, and it's all new to me. So we're knee deep in that, coming up on the end.
Yeah, it's actually I really enjoyed.
It's a little better than the iJedi.
Yeah, Corey and I joined you for iJedi, and that was a lot of fun. Yeah, you guys do a fantastic job. And speaking of fantastic jobs, also joining me today is the co-host of the Cantina Cast, Joe Stinson.
Hello there.
There he is. Hey, Joe, good to have you back on.
And I don't just do that because I'm on Coffee with Kenobi. I actually pretty much do that every episode that I intro on the Cantina Cast. For the most part, I do it. So it's kind of my calling card, and sometimes people get excited when I do it. Dan, why weren't you more excited when I do it? I've been working on my Alec Guinness, actually. That's my that's my Ewan, and I've always done the Ewan version of it. But I've been privately working on an Alec Guinness one, so I might have to bust that out one day.
I look forward to that. Yeah, and the Cantina Cast and Coffee with Kenobi have been working side by side for a very long time. In fact,
it's been a while, though. It's been a while. I think it's been since September of 2015 since we ever got to talk. I don't think we've ever even had a discussion, even on The Force Awakens, like about if you liked it or I liked it. I don't think we've ever talked about it, at least in an in-depth way. Can I ask that question just to start the show? Did you like The Force Awakens?
I did. I absolutely loved it. In fact, I've come to think of it as a perfect Star Wars film.
Yeah. Well, you know what my first word was in our initial reaction show? It was masterpiece.
Yeah.
And then Mike gives me crap for that all the time, because he said, "Oh, you just think it's a masterpiece." Well, maybe it is. So anyway, I'm sorry.
No worries. Well, it's happy to have you on again. And later in the show, CWK newsman Tom Gross will join us, as well as Disney insider Jim Hill is returning to give insights on Galaxy's Edge and the future of the Star Wars Hotel. And then in the coffee chat, Mediocre Jedi is going to share an interview from San Diego Comic-Con that he did with Hasbro. Let's start the show. I was going to do a little bit of a thing on Porg talk, but I think there's been plenty of talk about Porgs online, and these new cute little critters have certainly taking the Star Wars universe by storm, but I'm sure we'll get to that much later. Something more immediate has come up, and that is we have a composer of the untitled Han Solo film. It is John Powell, who's best known for the Bourne Identity films, Shrek, both Kung Fu Panda 1 and 2, and How to Train Your Dragon 1 and 2. So he will be the third composer, with John Williams, of course, and Michael Giacchino, to be a part of the Star Wars universe musically. What do you guys think about this?
I personally don't know much about him. I can't think. You name the movies there. It doesn't ring. Obviously, I've seen the Jason Bourne movies and things like that, but it's been so long, the music doesn't really ring a bell. My thing is if you've got the pick of the litter here. If you're Lucasfilm, if you're Disney, on these talented musicians, and there's so many talented artists and musicians out there that really, it would be hard to go wrong. And I know maybe some people say, well, hey, maybe they got something else wrong, but we won't get into that. But they've corrected that, hopefully, and hopefully they won't have to correct this. I think it's I have faith in it just because, and I love the music of Star Wars, and as long as you kind of keep with that, Star Wars has a certain sound. It's got that John Williams sound to it. So as long as you're in the ballpark, but be creative, do your own thing, I think you'll be fine.
Just some of those movies you mentioned, I'm trying to picture the soundtrack for them. So I might have to go back and listen to those. It's hard to tear away from John Williams. I know we won't always get him. Right. And I liked the Rogue One soundtrack, but there was some points in the movie though where I was like, man, I really wish, a John Williams track would have went at this point. But that's just me being picky. So, I'm sure you'll do a great job, and it's great to try stuff new as well. So, yeah, I'm excited for it. Come on, Han Solo movie, right? You don't even need a soundtrack.
Exactly. People saying Yahoo all the time would be cool. It's going to be interesting because he has already come out and said that he's going to score it in the style of the original Star Wars movies, but retain his own distinct voice, which I think was the same thing that happened with Giacchino and Rogue One, which I think is a better soundtrack than The Force Awakens, and that's not to detract from The Force Awakens soundtrack as much as I thought the Rogue One soundtrack could have easily been outtakes from the original score of the original film. That's how beautifully I thought it synced up. In fact, I find myself listening to that soundtrack more than any other soundtrack, and I think that's because it's probably the newest. I mean, it's not probably, it is the newest, so that may be why that is happening, but I see nothing but positives here. And I expect that with all of these standalone films, you're going to see a kind of a new composer for each one, and as you said, Joa, Disney has their pick of the litter, and everybody who is in Hollywood, this is going to be a dream of theirs, conceivably, to work on a Star Wars film. So the fact that we're going to get so much variety, I think, is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem as, and I don't want to knock the music side of it, but it just doesn't take as long to do the music side of it as it is being on set and directing the movie and getting somebody to say, hey, I'm going to give 2 years of my life away. Because if you look at somebody like Rian Johnson, who's doing The Last Jedi, I mean, he not only has to write the script, and that takes how long, and then he's got to direct the movie, and then he's got to do, post-production, and then he's got to promote the movie he's literally taking 2 years out of his life where he's like, I can't do another project. And with a musician like this, it's obviously, it just doesn't take quite as long. I believe that they did the original Star Wars soundtrack back in 76 or whenever it was, and they recorded it in like 2 or 3 days. It was very fast from what you can think. Now, that doesn't have anything to say how long it took him to write the music. I don't know that, but to actually get the London Symphony Orchestra together, they pretty much got it wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, and out the door, and they got it done. So to actually make the music and do all of those things, not quite as long. So you're not asking somebody to take a big, huge chunk out of their life. So, yeah, you do have more options when you're talking about that side of it, I think.
Yes, it's nice to get some more news on the film, and I'm hoping we'll hear something about a title in the foreseeable future. But in the meantime, we're going to take a break, and up next, Jim Hill will be bringing us behind the scenes of Galaxy's Edge. This is Coffee with Kenobi.
Better than one of those coffee chains. It's Coffee with Kenobi.
Coffee with Kenobi is sponsored by Penguin Random House Audio. Looking to catch up on the latest Star Wars books? Try listening to them on audio. Featuring sound effects and music directly from the movies, Star Wars audiobooks are the definitive listening experience. From brand new audiobooks such as Thrawn and Empire's End Aftermath to our blockbuster movie tie-in editions, you'll have plenty to keep you entertained. Visit penguinrandomhouseaudio.com/Star Wars for sample clips and to start listening now. Coffee with Kenobi is also sponsored by the Star Wars digital card trader collecting app from Topps. If you love Star Wars and love the excitement of chasing your favorite Star Wars collectibles, the Star Wars digital card trader collecting app from Topps is for you. Download the free app from iTunes or Google Play and collect your favorite images from the classic 1977 Star Wars cards to the Clone Wars, Star Wars Rebels, The Force Awakens, Rogue One, and much more. Collect and trade with friends new and old through the Star Wars digital card trader collecting app from Topps. These are the cards you're looking for. You know how much of an impact Patreon has on Coffee with Kenobi. It really makes a big difference in the show and what we're able to do. And I'm talking about CWK family Patreon contributors like Tyler Wiggins, Jason Hall, Dennis Keithley, Angela Souse, Aaron Harris, David Strutt, Jim Capron, Connie Shee, Mediocre Jedi, BJ Smith, Nick Deco, Adam Leonard, Mark Suter, Mike Audette, Eric Struthers, Jared Cantor, and Swara Sala. Patreon is there to help CWK with show expenses. We have our RSS feed, which is how we were able to distribute the show to so many different podcasting places like iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, what have you. It costs money to host a web page every month, microphone upkeep, travel, including airlines, hotel, food, transportation. There's a lot that goes into making Coffee with Kenobi what it is, and we can't do it without Patreon contributors. And well, I think most of it is stuff that you'll see. Some of it is just stuff I added recently. For $5, you get a mention at the start of the show, which is what I just did. And then we also follow you on Twitter. $10 for a month, you get the Google Hangout access, where once a month we will just get online and have a video conversation about whatever you want to talk about. $35 is a coffee mug. For $50, you can get a CWK mug or a T-shirt. $100 and more, you get the mug and the T-shirt. And both $50, $100, and up, depending on how many months you contribute, you are able to co-host one show, two shows, or an entire month of shows at Coffee with Kenobi. And that's pretty cool. So far, the response has been really great. Jim Hill joins us. Jim, thank you for having a cup of coffee with us again.
Well, it's nice to be back so quickly, but to be honest, given all the expo, I can understand us getting back together. And seriously, you guys should have come. I know I was nagging you the last show, but honestly, you should have come.
Obviously, huge, gigantic news. A lot of things confirmed. Some things you had said when you were on our show. So now we have a name for Star Wars Land, and tell us kind of how that went.
Well, actually, there's kind of a funny story to that. The news broke a day ahead of time about the name. I don't know if you guys heard this, that somebody on Reddit actually dug down into the HTML of the original press release, and there, buried in the code, was the name to be released, Galaxy's Edge, and mind you, this had been bubbling up for a couple of months now. That was one of several names, and I guess Disney was kind of concerned about it because obviously there is the Edge phone, the Galaxy, but I guess legal signed off on the idea, and it does. It does play nicely into the whole backstory that Disney and Lucasfilm have crafted for this thing. That it is at the this port that's kind of fallen off of the char starts because of now everybody uses jump to light speed, and this was a formerly popular trade space at the edge of what they're calling wild space. But it dates back to the sublight days, and now that everybody's doing light speed, it's now become a favorite for smugglers who, frankly, want to be operating out of the shadows, which perhaps explains why the Millennium Falcon ended up there. So,
and like when you were on before, and we talked about the immersive qualities about Galaxy's Edge, and especially the Star Wars Hotel, which we'll talk about really soon. And when you know about this, and then you see the model, you realize that this is definitely something special that we haven't really quite seen from Disney to this degree, and that's saying something considering Avatar.
No, absolutely. I mean, and what's truly, truly great about this is honestly, depending on which way you come in. Now it's important to stress here that the Disneyland version of Galaxy's Edge, I'm sorry, Disneyland version of Galaxy's Edge has 3 entrances. You can enter through the Critter Country side. You can come off of Big Thunder Trail in Frontierland, and you can enter basically at the top of the trail from Fantasyland. But each of these points starts off the story in a different way. I mean, for example, if you come up through Critter Country, you come through this thick forest, and you suddenly come around a bend, and here's an X-Wing, here's an A-Wing, and, here's a group of resistance fighters who immediately try to recruit you for a mission that, we've landed at the edge of, Galaxy's Edge here. And, we know the First Order is checking this place out and we need your help. And conversely, if you come in through the Fantasyland side, you arrive to this very nervous marketplace because a First Order TIE fighter has just landed. And in fact, what's really cool about this area, I got, one of the Imagineers just sort of walked me through. There's actually going to be, this is, where Kylo Ren will be making his entrance multiple times a day for, I don't know if meet and greet is the proper term, but there's actually going to be the equivalent of a stunt show that happens in this square that, the stormtroopers are here, are going to meet some resistance, and there's going to be some fighting and chasing around the rooftops and that sort of thing. So, a really exciting, interesting place to enter into the Star Wars theme park story from. And then, for those of you who want to have your own adventure, if you take the entrance off of Big Thunder Trail, this basically puts you in the heart of the city, and you're kind of in a story neutral point. I mean, you'll hear from the various shopkeepers and those sorts of folks who are walking through the streets that we've heard that a TIE fighter just landed a couple of blocks over, and we've heard that there's something going on with the resistance outside of town. But it's it's up to you to decide which way you go. And of course, if you happen to walk just straight to the back, this is the starport where the Millennium Falcon is parked. I love the notion that 3 different ways into the same land and 3 different stories.
I think that's amazing. And I'm also hearing, besides, I heard about the multiple entrances, but not to that degree. And the stunt show sounds very cool. But I'm wondering why Disneyland is going to be able to open first. And what are you hearing about entrances in Hollywood Studios?
Well, okay. To answer your second question first, there are only 2 entrances. One will come off of what they announced just today. They're calling Grand Avenue. It's the used to be Streets of America.
Oh, sure.
The last remains of it. That'll feed you into the forest section of Galaxy's Edge for Disney Hollywood Studios. The other entrance that will come in off of Toy Story Land, which is going to be kind of an interesting tonal change, but that puts you right into the TIE Fighter Town Square Nervous Merchant area. Now, the other band on this, I know we talked a little bit about on the last show about the Great Movie Ride closing, which by the way is about to happen. That they're going to be shutting that down to make way for the new Mickey's Runaway Railway attraction. But again, this is a 95,000 square foot building, and they're not going to need all of that room for this new Mickey attraction. So this is where I think we talked a little bit about the 3rd Street, the 3rd area that's going to be built. Yes. That's another reason why there isn't a separate entrance coming into this part of the park. That this is going to be strictly for the Walt Disney World Resort, and again gives those folks who are staying in the Star Wars themed hotel, which is going to be built near the World Drive, the old World Drive entrance of Disney Hollywood Studios that's being discontinued. And this will give those folks a new area to play in, and because again, those the folks who are going to be staying in that hotel, it's much more specific, longer missions, more interaction with merchants and smugglers, and that sort of thing. But again, we're a couple of years out from that. First things first is, and again, that's one of the reasons why Hollywood's is running one behind schedule, because this will be the first place that the Star Wars Hotel, gets built. And Bob Chapek was pretty straightforward about this, that they were so thrilled with the results that the survey got, that he was kind of making no bones about they think this is going to be a huge thing for the entire company. So I wouldn't necessarily count on there being only one Star Wars hotel.
Oh, wow.
I think they've identified this as a franchise. And to be honest, I think you'll probably see Florida, probably Japan, and then the question is, how do you do this in California? And I have to wonder, given that Disney did have plans. In fact, they're supposedly moving forward with a 4-star hotel that's supposed to be built in what used to be the temporary parking. Still is, but it will be going away when they begin construction of the facility. But the temporary parking at downtown Disney in Anaheim. And it was supposed to feature this, amazing restaurant on the roof that looked down into the parks and would allow you to see the new Star Wars land as well as the fireworks over the castle. And you have to wonder, given the ridiculously strong results for that survey, whether Disney is maybe revisiting that idea that, this is a piece of property that is ridiculously close to where Star Wars Land is going to go in. And, maybe thinking long term. That part of the problem is Disney wants to have a 4-star hotel on property. There's a lot of people who come to Walt Disney or Disneyland in Anaheim and want that, when their show is presenting at the Anaheim Convention Center, or they're presenting in the convention center that's at the Grand Californian. So, this is a market segment that could be served by that. But I'm just told that the results for that survey were so ridiculously strong that people wanted to do that, have that Star Wars experience today. And it's just this whole notion of, well, maybe we should find another place for the 4-star hotel.
Wow. Two things on that. One, since I don't have the map in front of me, and being so familiar with the parks, I used to work at Hollywood Studios. Where, how close would the hotel be to the park in relation to something like the Yacht and Beach Club in proximity to Epcot or the studios?
This is actually going to be on the far side of that. I mean, remember, when you were driving at a Disney property off of World Drive.
Sure.
You're coming up World Drive, you're headed to the Kingdom, and you have to take that ramp to the right. That takes you to the film strip entrance to.
Yes.
Okay. You go through the film strip, and immediately to your right, there used to be this giant chunk of wetlands. To your left, you'd see Streets of America, Muppet Vision, and then you'd come up to the.
Okay.
So we're talking about the hotel with its parking lot and all that being built on the wetlands.
So you could conceivably walk to the entrance of the park, or is it still probably going to be some sort of a shuttle or a bus?
Well, if you're staying in the Star Wars Hotel, the plan is that there's going to be the equivalent of an elevated walkway that will take you straight into the park. There's been some discussion of, should there be a Star Wars themed transportation system, something that gives you that sort of dramatic feel, that sort of thing. That there's been some push back and forth because obviously people are going to want to visit the Star Wars hotel who aren't necessarily staying at the Star Wars hotel. And a lot of the way Disney's designing this experience is sort of modeled after the Disney Cruise Line. With the whole notion of, in fact, for example, you can book a 2-day package, a 3-day package, so on and so forth. The various experiences, whether it's meeting with smugglers or, getting parts for your droid or however, you spend your time. But you can always return to your hotel room, which has, this amazing, faux window, sort of kind of like the magical windows that are on the cruise line for the rooms that don't have the view. But this will be, supposedly you're in, a vessel that's orbiting over the planet where Galaxy's Edge is located.
Wow.
So,
and I'm almost afraid to ask this one, but immediately after the news on Twitter, Len Testa posted some numbers he was hearing as far as how much it may cost to stay at the hotel.
Yeah, I know that sounds pricey. I mean, again, but remember, if you're going with the cruise line model, all right, and it's $650, for a 2-night package per, and then with each additional person who comes into the room being an additional $200. I think it's 4 people in a room that maxes out. I mean, it does sound pricey, but if you factor in, this is a 2-day, 2-night stay, supposedly 2-night, and the equivalent of 2.5 days worth of entertainment between what you get after you check in at say 3:00. And, what you'll get, on your 3rd day when you have to clear out of the room by 11:00. This is going to be, a pretty hefty Star Wars experience. Everybody, when they enter the room, gets a swag bag. There's been some discussion of what's in the swag bag. Because obviously you need credits, you need, stuff that will help you negotiate your way around Galaxy's Edge and that sort of thing. And again, the various scenarios that'll play out. Again, if you compare the price point to what they do on the Disney Cruise Line, it really is, comparable entertainment experience. And, and more to the point, one of the reasons Disney set this price point is they asked the folks who filled out the survey, what would they pay, to do this? And it with understanding that it is an exclusive experience within Galaxy's Edge that, you'll
go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
I say, are you expecting, or is Disney expecting any kind of a pushback on this? Because obviously a lot of people are going to want to experience this. And we're maybe hoping for a moderate resort. And obviously we weren't going to go all-star when it comes to Star Wars. But do you expect any kind of complaints about that?
No, I'm so sorry. I really don't. I mean, part of the issue here is that at least initially this is going to be a boutique hotel. Remember we talked about, the first building initially. I want to say it's 400-room hotel with 2 expansion pads for wings of 300 each. So at full build out, it's only 1,000 rooms. And one of the reasons that Disney is going to have to, or feels like they're justified with this price point is this is pretty labor intensive. There's going to be a lot of people behind the scenes, moving things around, whether it's making sure that scenarios play out the way they're supposed to, setting up props, Meeting with you at the hotel. I mean, there's going to be a whole cast of characters that just, are on the spaceship that is supposedly, floating over Galaxy's Edge that,
Sure.
You only encounter in the hotel. And more to the point, they're there to interact with you. So
we're talking much more immersive than anything, not only in Disney or theme parks, but just worldwide. I mean, this is a very, very unique experience. And don't get me wrong, I've already spoken to my wife about this. I've already started a fund, so I'm definitely going to stay. Just a question of when.
No, and I look, it upsets me that we kind of live in this world now that there are kids who go to Walt Disney World or Disneyland and find that they're kind of on the outside looking in, and it wasn't all that long ago that whether you were a president or a pauper, if you could get into Disneyland or one of the theme parks, everybody had basically the same experience. And now we're in kind of a skybox world where it's like, yeah, everybody can go to the game, but not everybody can have seats on the floor, or not everybody can be looking down from above from the skybox. So, but that's the reality, that Disney is looking to cater to that audience with deeper pockets and who are willing to pay for, this sort of experience. I mean, just the D23 Expo that just happened, there are folks, they call them the sorcerers, and I want to say they pay $2,000 or $2,500 a piece for their tickets to the D23 Expo, but it guarantees them seats at every single presentation. It guarantees them early access to all the shopping opportunities. I mean, they pay top dollar for that sort of access, and
Celebration has things like that as well too. I think it's like you said, the surveys must have been incredible as far as the reactions to that kind of a thing. And I also can't wait to see merchandise, and obviously it's going to be a while before we get to see things of that nature. But if you can't stay there, you can still visit. You can still enjoy the resort, much like any resort on property, it sounds like.
Well,
or maybe not.
Remember, I mean, one of the conceits of this resort is that, you board a conveyance that takes you up to the vessel that's orbiting, and again, I hate to say that they turned the riffraff away, but it's one of these situations where, again, if the model is the cruise line, it's not like you can get in a rowboat and go out to the cruise, to the magic that, if you have friends staying there, or
the cruise analogy is a really perfect comparison, because the cruise, you obviously sleep there, but that's pretty much the bare. That's not even on the radar, because you've got the shows, you've got the incredible dining, you've got the experiences, and this isn't a hotel, this isn't a resort, this is an actual experience. It's like Star Wars camp.
No, sorry. I like to think too that if I'm paying this much, it's going to be a more personal experience. So not as many people are going to be around, and I'll actually get to experience things more at a personal level for your story that I guess is being told, So
that's it exactly. And let me be blunt here. Disney wants the people who go on this, who have this experience, who pay for this, to evangelize, to go back and tell their friends who are Star Wars fans, like, oh my God, you've never experienced anything like this, and and with the thought that they're not really going to have to advertise all that much. No. There'll be press early on, and people will enjoy it, and then the company will just pivot and build the Star Wars hotel for the Tokyo Disney Resort, and then try to figure out where exactly the Star Wars hotel gets built in Anaheim.
They're probably readying designs for the Coffee with Kenobi wing right now, I'm sure.
Well, there we go. But again, seriously, that Bob Chapek, out of all the stuff he announced, he seems so excited about this, because again, the Disney company had accidentally tripped over a new revenue stream. And, and the response was so strong and so positive that, normally with a survey like this that, Disney takes the results internally and, chews on it for a month, if not, a year or two. And remember, this survey only came out like 2 and 3 months ago. And here, bang, hey, we yes, we did the survey, and yes, we're excited about this year and idea. And yes, we think this could be a huge thing for the company.
There's so much. It's too bad that your coffee's running low because I could sit and listen to you talk about this for hours. I really appreciate you coming back on the show. Where can listeners get in touch with you if they want to ask you a question or just say hello?
Well, let's see. I do the Unofficial Guide Disney Dish podcast with Len Testa. I have my own website, jimhillmedia.com, which really doesn't sound all that humble. And I do also some stories for the Huffington Post. So I'm just Google Jim Hill. I'll pop up somewhere. So,
and we will definitely have links, of course, to all of these things in the show notes. I'm happy to have you back for a cup of coffee anytime that you would like, sir.
Oh, happy to drop in. And again, given what Disney's building and all the other stuff that's going to be announced, I would imagine we'll have a lot to chat about.
I would think so. Very good. Jim Hill, ladies and gentlemen. After the break, Tom has news. This is Coffee with Kenobi.
This is Coffee with Kenobi. Oh, pass the cream, would you?
Looking to catch up on the latest Star Wars books? Try listening to them on audio. Featuring sound effects, top-notch narrators, and music directly from the movies, Star Wars audiobooks are the definitive listening experience. From Han Solo to C-3PO to Admiral Akbar, you'll recognize all of your favorite characters. Listen to movie tie-ins like Rogue One and The Force Awakens, to book titles such as Thrawn and Empire's End Aftermath, to classic audiobooks like William Shakespeare's Star Wars. With Star Wars audiobooks, you'll have plenty of Star Wars listening to keep you entertained. Visit penguinrandomhouseaudio.com/Star Wars for sample clips and to start listening now. The Star Wars Digital Card Trader Collecting app features incredible images from many aspects of the saga, including the original trilogy, the prequels, the Clone Wars, Rebels, The Force Awakens, and Rogue One. It's the quality you have come to expect from Topps. It's also easy to get into and really fun, too. Your favorite Star Wars characters, scenes, and moments are in every pack. To get started, download the app for free from iTunes or Google Play, and then be sure to open the app each day for free credits to spend on card packs from the Cantina. Plus, if you can't get what you're looking for, there's a place to trade with your friends as you complete your Star Wars collection. And if you're an experienced collector, there are exclusive cards, special inserts, and autograph opportunities for you to enjoy. Don't worry about missing the cards and sets you want either, as you can sign up for notifications right on the app. The Star Wars Digital Card Trader Collecting app from Topps can be downloaded for free from iTunes or Google Play. Be sure to download the app and start your collection today. The Star Wars Digital Card Trader Collecting app from Topps is available now. And remember, these are the cards you're looking for.
We are back, and Tom Gross, of course, joins us with the news. It's getting easier and easier to come up with stories, isn't it?
Oh man, I'll tell you what. There's just a little bit going on these days.
We almost have to arm wrestle with what we're going to cover and where we're going to cover it in the show.
I know, it's kind of. I just shuffle the deck and I pull 3 and we go.
Let's go. Let's do this.
Let's do it. Good day, everybody. And Marvel Comics Star Wars main title is set for a change. According to StarWars.com, the creative writer-artist team of Kieran Gillen and Salvador LaRocca will take the helm of Star Wars with issue 38 this November. Readers of Marvel Star Wars comics will know this team from the Darth Vader series, and currently Gillen is working on the Dr. Aphra series. Gillen says they want to do for Luke, Leia, and Han what they did with the character Darth Vader. They begin by taking our heroes to the post-apocalyptic planet of Jeddah. The cover art for that issue can be seen on StarWars.com, showing Luke cloaked in robes and a dusty terrain with his blue lightsaber ignited, and above him, in the distance, a Star Destroyer with a squad of TIE fighters heading to the surface. Editor Jordan White calls Gillen one of the best writers in the business today, and with his writing on Darth Vader and Dr. Aphra, he has a great grasp on heroes and villains of the Star Wars galaxy.
He does, and I interviewed Kieran Gillen for StarWars.com, and we talked on Skype like this, and the guy is hilarious, and he's brilliant, and when I saw that there was a change, at first I was a little nervous because Jason Aaron's been doing it since the beginning, and honestly, I don't know if you two read the comics, but I have found that the last few issues, besides the Screaming Citadel, I've found them to become a little more stale. So knowing that he's coming on, and if he does for these characters what he did for Vader, I mean, he adds some interesting depth to characters that are, over 40 years old, and it's really, really in good hands. Now, I'm not crazy about them going back to Jeddah, but I know I will reserve my judgment until I read it. What do you guys think?
Well, I've always liked the idea of revisiting Jeddah in some form or fashion. I know me and Mike have speculated on it before, and I know that's the dirty word over here.
That's right. I'll have to mute that.
But we've always liked it. I mean, ever since I saw it in Rogue One, I said this is a place that they could revisit. I don't know if it's going to be a place, this character goes or that character goes. So. It's definitely a place that interested me a whole lot, and I would definitely love to see more of Jeddah, because I think that there's a lot of potential when you talk about the lore of the Jedi and where they came from, and you've got all these different sects of the Force, and it's not just the Jedi; it's all these different kind of religions of the Force, if you will, if that's the proper term I want to use here, but. Yeah, so I mean, Jeddah, Jeddah was my favorite thing in Rogue One. So if they revisit in the comics, it's something that would reinterest me in the comics, Dan, because as you said, sometimes your interest in the comics might wane here or there, or maybe it gets a little stale, I guess, to use your exact words. I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Yeah,
for me,
specifically that series, the Star Wars series itself.
Right. I go in and out with the comics, and I'm more out than in. But if you give me something like that I could sink my teeth into, and if it's something with the lore of the Force, that's right up my alley. That's the kind of stuff I really like. And I think that's probably why it was my favorite part of Rogue One, because there wasn't a whole lot of that, obviously, in Rogue One, because it wasn't about Jedi. But, you had this place where, the Jedi, they were at one point for whatever reason. So, yeah, I mean, Jeddah, let's revisit it. I'm all for it.
I think there's a lot of play, too, because they kind of introduced the planet, and there's not a ton of background. So they do have some play with how they can, develop the story in the future. So I think that gives the writers a lot of ability there, whether they stay there for the series or not. But it could be a great place to start, especially with Rogue One, still in everybody's mind.
Well, and if he's researching trying to learn more about the Jedi, because this is before he encounters Yoda, it makes sense that he would end up on Jeddah because of the Kyber crystals that they had. Tom, what about you?
Yeah,
how have you felt the Star Wars title has gone recently?
Dan, you took the words right out of my mouth. I look forward to the Star Wars title every single month. I agree with you that it's sort of stale is a great word for it. And if I can just say, that great gets stale, it can. But I'll say about the Sleeping Citadel or the it just escaped my mind. The Citadel storyline, Screaming Citadel. I must have missed something. Either I didn't get a comic in my hands, or I'd never experienced the conclusion to that. I don't know.
It's in Aphra, Dr. Aphra.
Yeah, I need to go back and make sure I've
Dr. Aphra number 8,
those.
I believe.
I think this is going to be. I loved the Vader comics. I love the writing in the Aphra series. So I think if you can make great better, that we're going to see that. It is just my opinion, and I agree with everyone else that I I really am intrigued by the return to Jeddah and all the possibilities from just discoveries that they can make, whether it's Jedi or Rebel Origins or something completely new. I think that's really neat, and I think it's a really interesting prospect.
And before we move on, it is worth mentioning that Salvador Larroca, he draws likenesses of these actors so beautifully that, especially in the Screaming Citadel, when I was looking at Luke and Han, I was looking at Harrison Ford and Mark Hamill. I mean, the guy is incredible, and he drew Darth Vader and made him expressive, which is hard to do when he's got a helmet on and he doesn't make expressions. So I mean, they could not be in. These two are at the top of their game. So this is going to be cool.
Absolutely. Well, settle in. We got a lot on this next story. When Lucasfilm Publishing held a new Star Wars Stories panel at the San Diego Comic-Con, hosted by Michael Siglain, creative director at Lucasfilm Publishing. It was an all-star cast of Star Wars authors, including Ben Blacker of Join the Resistance, Christian Blauvelt of Star Wars Made Easy, Cullen Bunn was there with the Marvel Darth Vader miniseries, Christy Golden of the much-anticipated Star Wars Battlefront 2 Inferno. Claudia Gray joined them with the upcoming Leia, Princess of Alderaan. Jarrett Krososka of Star Wars Jedi Academy, The Force Oversleeps. Beth Revis of Star Wars Rebel Rising, and Kevin Scott and Landry Q. Walker of the upcoming Star Wars Adventures comic rounds out the panelists. They all talked about their book projects, which I always enjoy hearing about, and their first memories of experiencing Star Wars 40-some years ago. Well, they aren't all 40 years, but some of them are. Some highlights include, one of my favorites was a moment when Beth Revis was giving the summary of her Rebel Rising title, and Christy Golden interjected how much she enjoyed Revis's book, and then she surprises Revis by telling her that one of the characters in Rebel Rising shows up in Battlefront 2 Inferno Squad. Revis, in complete excited shock, with hand over her mouth, giggles and says, "I did not know that." It was a great moment. Christian Blauvelt, the newest member to Star Wars books, wrote his book, Star Wars Made Easy, for those fans who have friends or family who may have never seen the saga or just don't get it. We all have those friends, right?
That's right.
Blauvelt says he tried to write from the point of view of those who know nothing about what Star Wars is all about. Then Michael Siglain wraps up by revealing some book covers, including 2 issues of the IDW Star Wars Adventures and a future Luke and Leia story from IDW, as well as covers from the upcoming Marvel Comics Mace Windu Jedi of the Republic, and to the applause of the crowd, revealed the cover and announced that a Thrawn adaptation by Jody Houser of Timothy Zahn's novels will be released next February. And finally, Siglain mentioned that a somewhat revealing story to the Journey to the Last Jedi about Canto Bight will be available on December 5th before the movie comes out.
Boy, there's
lots in there.
Yeah, there's a lot to dive into. Let's go around the table here and let's talk about something that really stands out for you. Joe, let's start with you.
Yeah, I'm already talking to. I'm not going to give any spoilers away, but people are already talking about the Inferno Squadron, and they're saying how much they really already enjoy that. I've got a couple of listeners of mine who've talked about it, and they're really enjoying that new perspective from the Empire. And one of those same listeners did we talk about the Captain Phasma book? But I know I don't know if we're on the panel, but they're in there. And he kind of told me, he said, I'm really looking forward to that in one way, is he said, I'm going to wait till after The Last Jedi to read that book, because I want them to do something in the movie first that makes me want to know about her character, because I don't want the book to dictate, like that's her whole backstory is just the book, and it's a big cop out. So I had the same listener who told me about how much they're enjoying Inferno Squadron so far also told me that about Phasma. So they're on the fence on both. So I mean, and I completely understood where they were coming from on that. So that was my buddy Albert. So I got to give him a shout out for giving me kind of some of the insight, because I haven't started the Inferno Squadron yet, but he's telling me how much he's mentioned it several times to me, how much he really is enjoying that book. So Yeah, I mean, those are the ones that stand out to me just because those are kind of the ones that have been in my frame of mind lately, and people have been talking to me about them.
Luke, what about you?
Well, obviously Inferno Squad. I haven't had a chance to grab it yet on Audible. I got some credits built up. Trying to finish some of our new Jedi Order books first. But if anybody knows me, they know what I'm excited for, and that's Thrawn. I mean, I can't get enough of that character. To me, he's just such an exciting villain. He's totally different than any other villain. It may not be another novel by Timothy Zahn, but I'm sure that he'll be done right. And Rebels did a great job of portraying him. I thought that, it was true to his old self. So I'm excited for that.
Interesting that you mentioned that, because that's actually the thing I'm the least excited about, and there's only one reason. Now, I love the Thrawn book, and although I definitely want to talk about that on a future show, because I'm sort of torn on the connection of how he is at the end of Thrawn versus how he is in season 3 of Rebels, but that's neither here nor there for right now. Right now, I'm not concerned. That's definitely not the word. For now, I'm aware that they are releasing a Thrawn comic, but it's an adaptation of a pre-existing story, and I don't feel like, to me, that's not as exciting. Why don't we have a new Thrawn story? And maybe they're saving something for Rebels, obviously, because he'll be in season 4. But it just seems a little bit like, it's not a cop-out, but I just feel like it was sort of, I think they could have done more instead of adapting something that's already out there in the zeitgeist of Star Wars.
Yeah, I could see that. And maybe I'm not as in the loop with some of this stuff, but is there any word of Timothy Zahn maybe doing another one? Does anybody know?
I'm not aware, but it wouldn't surprise me.
I mean, they adapt the movies into the comics,
sure.
But those are adapted. The novels are adapted from the movie, which is something we just talked about a couple weeks ago, which is just funny because it's like, this is Star Wars is the only franchise that does this. It works from this backwards way. It makes movies first, and then all the other supplementary stuff comes out, which it just blows my mind how it works that way, because it's one of the few things that can really get away with that, and that's what's amazing about Star Wars. But yeah. Besides that, Dan, I can't think of anything else.
Well, the other thing that stands out to me, I'm really pumped about the Legends of Luke Skywalker, as well as Claudia Gray writing Leia, because last time Claudia Gray wrote a Leia novel, I mean, we're talking about Bloodline, of course. To me, that is the best novel of the new canonical focus or vision. And I think she's amazing with Leia and has a great voice with her. And it's a bit of a prequel. I guess, of course, it's a prequel, but it's set before A New Hope. And we're going to learn more about her growing up and how she becomes involved with the rebellion, which I think will be fascinating. The Legends of Luke will be great because obviously there's a ton of unexplored territory with him between, where he is in Return of the Jedi and where he ends up in The Force Awakens. By the way, did you guys see how they have officially said you pronounce that planet? Ashto.
No, which one?
It's Ashto.
No, I hadn't seen it.
Yeah. Ashto. Bless you. Yeah, so that's how you pronounce it. How about that? So those are the two things that jump out for me. What else do you have for us, Tom?
Well, I've got news that I wish had come out about 40 years ago, and that is that Radio Flyer, the famous wagon and tricycle company, announced at San Diego Comic-Con that children can have their very own Luke Skywalker X-34 land speeder. This land speeder seats 2 and drives forward and reverse and speeds up to 5 miles an hour. While that might have taken Luke a little longer to find R2 on Tatooine, children are sure to find this a thrilling ride around the neighborhood. The speeder comes with a dashboard console and has a shifter that puts the speeder into park, forward, or reverse, and has a selection of 5 buttons that play sounds, including an engine startup and shutdown, speeder flying sounds, and then a few lines from A New Hope, including 3PO saying, "There are several creatures approaching from the southeast," and Luke saying, "Look, there's a droid on the scanner, dead ahead, might be our little R2 unit. Hit the accelerator." Oh. Those were me doing those. I didn't take those off.
I felt like I was watching the film right there. That was magical.
In case you were wondering, yes. And then there's some R2-D2 chirps and whistles. I've posted specs for the land speeder as well as a fun promotional video by Radio Flyer on Twitter at Draftline, or you can find it on and other Star Wars related San Diego Comic-Con news on the Coffee with Kenobi website.
Well, thank you for the plug, sir. All right, so I think it's fair to say that when we saw this, and I haven't spoken to any of you about this, but when we saw this, I mean, raise your hand if you don't think this is the coolest thing ever. I don't see anybody raising their hand. So it is the coolest thing ever. The weight limit is 130 pounds. So you got to keep that in mind, folks. And I think the price point is $500. Does that sound correct?
That is correct.
Wow. I think my son needs one of these. What kind of dad would I be if I didn't get him this?
Right. And I know a couple people who would love to share the passenger seat with him too.
The fact that it has all those,
not including myself.
That's who you were. Let's be honest. We know what you were talking about. What's in your coffee, buddy?
The two of us
driving down the school hallway. Won't that be a thing? Deanna won't be embarrassed at all.
Not at all.
All right. So I did hear today that there is a little bit of a very, very small amount of backlash because people are saying, because they're doing this with Radio Flyer, that it is eliminating children's imagination. And I definitely do not agree with that at all. What could be more imaginative than picturing yourself on another planet?
Yeah.
So do you guys have your eyes on this thing?
It sounds like I've got to lose a lot of weight to get on this thing. Like, I mean,
there you go, goals.
Dan, you've met me in person. I'm a big guy, you know. I mean, I'm gonna have to. I'll probably have to lose 3 of myself to get onto this thing. So I'll be a fourth of the podcaster I used to be, I guess. So to get onto this thing. So, but yeah, I mean, it looked cool. Like, I don't have kids myself. I know. I hate to keep bringing up my co-host Mike, but I got to give him a plug. His 6-year-old daughter. I know he posted it on Facebook, and he said, "Hey, you know, wifey, we got to get this for the daughter, you know." So, I mean, he's definitely looking into it. So I hope she gets it, you know, because he's always trying to convert her into the Star Wars way, and he is succeeding very well so far. She loves Rey and all of those characters. So this would just be another way to keep that Skywalker in Star Wars and stuff going for him, and so I'm rooting for him to do that. And
that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it looks cool, and you always think back, and you're like, why didn't they have that when I was a kid? And I think that's always the sentiment. And we said that 10 years ago. We said that probably 20 years ago. Even when you're 15 years old, you're like, why didn't they have that when I was 5 years old? I remember saying that 20 years ago when I was 15. And I said, why didn't they have that when I was 5 years old? And you know, so there's always got to be those kinds of things. And so obviously it's very cool, and it's just amazing how far they're taking everything nowadays. Just everything. It blows my mind.
Do we have a release date on this thing? Just fall. I know it's in the fall.
I just want to know when the speeder bike comes out.
Oh, nice. Well, here's the thing. Obviously, Radio Flyer,
the adult version.
Yeah,
that goes 50.
Good luck with that.
Be on the highway riding a speeder bike.
I'm pretty sure it'll be a Rancho Obi-Wan when it comes out. And
Dan, to answer your question, September 5th is when the speeders will be available.
So just after the second Force Friday, basically.
Just in time for the holidays.
That's right. Well, you're going to need a pretty big stocking to put this thing in there.
It's going to need its own garage.
Well, you know, just hope you don't have to go pick up some power converters, because, you know, you don't want to waste your day doing that mindless nonsense.
That's true.
So
you waste time with your friends when your chores are done.
Yeah. Can you imagine that? That would be an amazing thing for, you know, the mom or the dad or both of them. They bring the thing home and they say, here's a birthday present, here's your Christmas present. And they say, no, wait a minute, you got to cut the grass first before you can ride it. Like, that would be amazing. Like, that would be a total Uncle Owen move, and I would love it, because Uncle Owen, in my opinion, Uncle Owen is one of the biggest jerks in Star Wars. I'm not afraid to say it. I you know, so there you go. So I would love that. That would be a classic Owen move.
Well, the Uncle Owen people are going to be livid.
Out there, I love the Lars family. Don't get me wrong, but Owen is a jerk. I mean, he's basically.
I hope he's not listening.
Dan, I have a follow-up story from a few weeks ago. In response to a now famous little girl from Evanston, Illinois, Star Wars fans across the United States, and a tweet from J.J. Abrams, as of July 25th, Hasbro has finally made the Force Awakens Monopoly game, including the Rey playing token, available in the United States. Fans may purchase the game on the Hasbro website, and Michelle Smith from the Seattle Times reports that the website originally stated only one game may be purchased per household, but that notice was removed after the Associated Press inquired about the purchase policy. So now Rey may purchase and sell properties with the rest of them.
Well, that is great news, and this is an example of the power of social media to do something in a healthy, productive way. And right on, that's good. Thank you for that, Tom. We are going to take a break, and when we come back, we will play Mediocre Jedi's Hasbro interview from San Diego Comic-Con. This is Coffee with Kenobi.
This is Coffee with Kenobi. Oh, pass the cream, would you?
Coffee with Kenobi was sponsored by Penguin Random House Audio. Looking to catch up on the latest Star Wars books? Try listening to them on audio. Featuring sound effects and music directly from the movies, Star Wars audiobooks are the definitive listening experience. From brand new audiobooks such as Thrawn and Empire's End Aftermath to our blockbuster movie tie-in editions, you'll have plenty to keep you entertained. Visit penguinrandomhouseaudio.com/Star Wars for sample clips and to start listening now. Coffee with Kenobi was also sponsored by the Star Wars digital card trader collecting app from Topps. If you love Star Wars and love the excitement of chasing your favorite Star Wars collectibles, the Star Wars digital card trader collecting app from Topps is for you. Download the free app from iTunes or Google Play and collect your favorite images from the classic 1977 Star Wars cards to the Clone Wars, Star Wars Rebels, The Force Awakens, Rogue One, and much more. Collect and trade with friends new and old through the Star Wars digital card trader collecting app from Topps. These are the cards you're looking for.
Alrighty, I am here at San Diego Comic-Con 2017 at the Hasbro Toys booth. I'm here with Joe Ninavaji and Steve Evans. And Joe, could you tell us what you do at Hasbro?
Yeah, sure. I'm the marketing director for Star Wars at Hasbro.
And Steve?
I am the design director for Star Wars at Hasbro.
All right, so we're talking with two guys who definitely know a lot about Star Wars toys here at Hasbro. Can you tell us about the Imperial Combat Assault Tank that we saw the other day?
Yeah, so we brought Vintage Collection back for 18. We were thrilled to announce that at Celebration, but, it's not just figures. Obviously, that's the focus on it, but there have been some amazing vintage vehicles that we've done, and we wanted to bring it back and do something totally new. And we all fell in love with the assault tank from Rogue One, and it's just a great vehicle for us to do. And Steve and his team, especially Mark Boudreau, who's a legend in our business, has just put so much love into it. As you saw from that exploded view, there's so many intricate details, down to the space coffee cup, to the Kyber crystal cylinder, to the Kyber crystal itself. So we're thrilled to have that part of the vintage return in 18.
And I think it's one of those vehicles that we wanted to know what was going on underneath the hood. It's carrying the Kyber crystals in these cargo boxes, which has a very unique way of opening. So we're kind of intrigued in that, and there are people inside. What do they look like? It's a tank. We kind of know what a tank is, but how does it look different? So it was just one of those kind of intriguing ones, and it was a good scale. We promised to make the scales proportionate to the fantasy for Vintage Collection. There'll be no kind of scaling down. There'll be a little bit of scaling down when you get big, even the AT-AT's not really to scale that we did many years ago. But it's a good start.
So we can confirm then that you say AT-AT and not AT-AT.
I do say AT-AT, yes.
Okay, which is the proper way, yes. By the way. I hate to ask about the females' outfits, but Padme has had so many looks throughout the prequels. Is her starfighter pilot disguise and the Forces of Destiny doll indicative of how we'll see her in Forces of Destiny? Is that anything you can comment on?
I'm not totally sure, to be honest. I know that they do try to go close to the reference of the show, so I'm assuming that that'll be how she appears in the show. I'm not going to say that that's the only outfit. I mean, obviously she's got such awesome outfits. We talk about her for Black Series. What's going to be the Padme outfit that we do for Black Series? So there's a lot there, but I mean, that will be the first one, and I'm sure that that's going to be tied to an episode, some of the reference, but who knows what's to come.
So you have been wondering what kind of outfits she'll be wearing in the Black Series. Can you tell us more about that?
Well, I mean, I think it's only inevitable that we get Padme into Black Series, and we're certainly talking about that a lot.
We're having that conversation right now. It's like, okay, if we were going to do Padme, how should she appear? I'm actually asking you. What do you think?
Yeah.
Like, what do you think?
I do like her action scenes. Someone had brought up the Geonosis arena outfit, but then she's bare midriff that may or may not go over very well with some people who are buying those toys / collectibles. I don't know. Maybe that's something y'all could run as a poll.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
I think it's an interesting point. I mean, the Queen outfit, I'm going to really struggle to do that for $19.99. So that's, sort of you immediately, that's kind of the go-to thought. But she's got a lot of great outfits, and I think that's a cool poll idea. We'll get that out there.
I can think of plenty of fangirls that are out there that would love to be able to have some input on that.
Right
And fanboys as well, but I wouldn't want just me. You're asking me, and what I say, you'll just immediately start designing, right?
Yeah. Is, you've Jedi mind tricked us, so this is how it's going to go from now on. So just let us know what you want.
I like this. I should do this more often.
Especially with your Hera head over here, it's just intriguing. I got you.
For the record, Joe is referring to the fact that I am wearing Twi'lek Leku today. Doesn't match my skin tone, and it's very warm, but it's nice. Can you tell? It's actually my natural look.
Is it?
Yes.
Wow.
I was considering spiking him up.
You're a natural lime.
I am. And we'll stop there. When will we see a Hera Forces of Destiny doll? And if we do see one, will it come with Chopper?
I don't know for sure. Again, everything kind of rides off the entertainment. I'd be shocked if there wasn't a Hera coming down the pike, but you'll have to wait and see. The only thing we're revealing right now at this con was Padme, so stay tuned.
I will do that. Very ambiguous answer there.
Well,
How about, can you tell the huge fan response to the Hair of the Black series?
Yeah.
Now, we saw it here last year, and we see it here again. It's my understanding there were some issues with paint, and I'd like to know more about that. When will it come out, please?
Yeah, so it's coming out. It's coming out not much later than it was planned. Kind of like next wave or so. So it'll be out in the fall. There was a lot of rumors on the internet about the knees that we were kind of resculpting that. That's not the issue at all. It was a paint. We had an issue with the paint, the actual kind of skin tone. It was coming out a bit appley, and it just didn't look right. So we went, you know what? No, let's put it back, get it back in, reproduce it, and get the right skin tone. So yeah, it was a deco alignment to get it looking spot on.
Super. And, of course, the fans want to see it look exactly like they would see on the screen.
Exactly.
Yesterday you revealed that you would be making a Dr. Aphra character. Question that came up on the PowerPoint slide.
Yeah, that was a mistake.
Okay. What I'm referring to for those at home is the card said Legends, and it made us, and a lot of people said, wait a minute, she's a canon character. So if you could comment on that.
Yeah, I think we probably put...
You should let me comment.
Yeah,
They should let me comment. So that was I actually did the PowerPoint deck. So I was... That's not packaging graphics. That's just me putting stuff on PowerPoint. And I was like, how do I name this? And I was under the impression that anyone that I didn't know quite where to fit in, I could use the catch-all as Legends. So that will not be the name that goes on packaging. I will make sure I let my Lucasfilm people tell me what they need to call that.
Right.
Because
I don't know what to call it though. I still don't know what to call it.
Like,
Comics.
Darth Vader, so what's the right? Yeah.
So I will ask my contact.
Awesome, because she didn't go to 6 years of evil medical school to be called Ms. Aphra. Right. She's a doctor, and you will refer to her as such. A question that I polled our listeners: will the Star Wars Celebration Orlando exclusive 40th anniversary Luke in X-wing ever be sold again?
Probably not. No, I mean that figure itself was from our original. It was the very first Black Series figure we did, but the special edition package that we had done for Celebration, we kind of kept that tight for Celebration, and that's probably it.
That makes sense. If you're going to go buy yourself an exclusive and wait in line to do that, you want to make sure it's actually exclusive. A question that came up about the Force FX lightsaber, Rey's saber. Is there any mechanical difference between that and the Luke ESB saber?
Yes, there is, and that's all I'll say.
Okay, because of course we don't canonically know what happened between when Luke lost an appendage.
Yeah, lots of things. Lots of people have had it. I think it's been passed down from generation to generation. Yeah. Who knows who's had their hands on it? So you'll have to check it out for yourself and have a little look.
Maybe there'll be a movie about it in the future. Okay.
The lightsaber standalone film. That's great.
These two gentlemen are dancing a little bit. Another question from our listeners. Are there any plans to make 3.75-inch figures of the Clone Wars characters who we haven't seen yet, like Satine, Bo-Katan, Pong Krell, etc.?
Yeah, I think everything's under consideration. The Clone Wars, we've done Rex in 6-inch. Nothing's off limits. We try and align ourselves to the latest entertainment, which is the right thing to do, and then we kind of throw in classics and TV shows, so whether it's Clone or Rebels. So never say never, but there are a lot of characters out there, so we'll get to some and we won't get to others for quite a while.
That makes sense. I can imagine that designing a toy that has 4 arms as opposed to 2.
He's tricky. He's tricky because he obviously was part on the 6-inch. He was up there on some of the more favorite suggestions. Yeah. So
Pong Krell?
Yeah. When we had the last no, I apologize. The super articulated 3 3/4 inch. He was mentioned quite a few times. But he was like, oh my God, he's big. That's a big figure.
Yeah, to each their own. Okay, well, gentlemen, is there anything else you would like to tell the Coffee with Kenobi listeners about what Hasbro's got upcoming for Star Wars?
We can't wait for you guys to experience September 1st, Force Friday 2. We have a lot coming. Thank you so much for all your input, and keep the feedback coming, and may the Force be with you.
What he said.
All right. Thank you both. I really appreciate your time, and may the Force be with you as well.
Better than one of those coffee chains. It's Coffee with Kenobi.
Before we get to email, I want to thank our CWK sponsors, Penguin Random House Audio and the Star Wars Digital Card Trader Collecting app from Topps. Please support them the way they support our podcast. And remember to listen to new and archive shows of Coffee with Kenobi wherever you listen to podcasts, including iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Player FM, our Coffee with Kenobi website, www.coffeewithkenobi.com, or wherever you enjoy listening to your favorite shows. And if you listen to the show through iTunes, please leave us a review. We are also on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Pinterest, Tumblr, and we'd love for you to check us out there. And while you're at it, be sure to listen to our CWK family of shows, including Legends Library, hey, Rebels Reactions, Comics with Kenobi, and Lattes with Leia. From Eric Okenhoot. Hi, Dan. So here are some thoughts I had on D23 news concerning the Star Wars theme park Galaxy's Edge. It's exciting that we're getting an actual place to visit that makes us feel like we're living in the Star Wars universe. However, I'm even more excited for all the new books that we're getting. I've never been a huge fan of amusement parks, but I've been an avid reader since I was very young. I know I'm weird, but that's okay. Living in the Star Wars universe has never been a great want of mine. I just love reading the stories because that's what Star Wars is, a great story. Thank you, Eric. And guys, what do you think about that? We didn't really talk about that with Jim at the top of the show, but for people who don't want that immersive experience, I think that may be a huge detriment or a deterrent for them to wanting to even stay there.
Right. And Dan, I mean, I definitely can feel that because it's some people I think are going to have the idea that this is just, I can just walk right in. And I had no idea until, listening to Jim and hearing that interview that that's not really going to be the case. It's not going to be just like, hey, I can walk into and go get in line and do this and do that. It doesn't sound like that's going to be the case at all. So I personally think that that's off-putting for somebody like me who it would be a once-in-a-lifetime thing to go and do. And now it's like, I think that, that's, it really makes me think like, well, now that's something I'm probably never going to get to do. And that's just me being honest. And because it sounds like it's, going to cost a heck of a lot of money. I don't remember any figures he threw out, so I'm not going to throw any figures out there. But just to do that, I just feel like it's not like, hey, I can just walk up and...
A family of 4 for 2 nights, and I think it's a minimum 2-night stay. You're looking at over $2,000.
Okay, that's not horrible, I guess. Like, that's not horrible. Okay, that's not as bad as I was thinking. And I'm sorry I missed that earlier. But, I just imagine, like, someone like, when I was a kid and my dad would not get wrapped up in all of that stuff. Like, he's going to be like, leave me alone.
Yeah.
Like he's just like I mean, some people are just kind of like not into that stuff, and they're like, I don't want to be I just want to be with my kids, and we're gonna walk around, and I don't want to do the whole dog and pony show.
Sure.
Now, great. It sounds and I'm not dogging on this, man, because it sounds amazing, and honestly, it sounds exhausting, actually.
It does a little bit. It doesn't sound relaxing, but I think we're looking at something that's more of an experience.
For the employees.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm saying like for the employees,
Oh, yeah.
and they're going through this every day. This sounds like an exhausting experience for them.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, and that's going to be, so I can understand the price, but this is something unique. So I give kudos to Disney for trying something so unique in this. So, yeah, I mean, I just can't. If I had a kid or something, maybe you go and try to do this. But for myself, I think the movies for me and all the other content, that's probably enough. And because I get to be so creative in what I do anyway. And I can just kind of imagine stuff in my head. I don't know that I necessarily, and you've got cons and stuff where you can have people cosplaying and, you can LARP if you really want to, and that probably don't cost very much. So there are alternatives. I'll just say that. But overall, it does sound like it would be an amazing experience, but it doesn't sound like it's going to be necessarily for everyone.
Luke,
but I
what
guess
do
you
think?
can say that about almost everything in life.
I mean, personally, so the thing for me is if I'm going to spend that much money and I want to see how it is, because if you're spending $2,000, I want the experience personally, but I want it to be my experience, my story. I don't want to be walking around with this group of 10 other people. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
If it's going to be me and my kids. So I'm interested to hear how they're going to tailor that. So it actually feels like a personal experience to you. It's not like a group thing. I'm sure if anybody can do it, it's going to be Disney.
Absolutely.
I think there's going to be cool stuff too. If you don't stay at the hotel, I'm sure they're going to have stuff like, Harry Potter Land where you have the little wand and you can activate things. I'm sure they're going to do stuff with this.
Yes.
You can maybe use the Force at different things, and maybe you can lift an X-Wing or something.
There you go.
So I'm sure it's going to be cool walking through Star Wars Land and the little missions. And who knows, maybe there'll be some personal missions you can walk on, kind of like how, you look for all the little Mickey heads. Maybe there'll be some stuff you can search for too. So those
Hidden
of us
Yodas. There you go.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think there will be a good environment for people that want the experience, and then those that want to just walk around, get the missions. Disney's smart. They'll get the best environment for everybody.
Absolutely. From Jonathan Cohen. I was very happy to learn that John Jackson Miller will be joining the Canto Bight team for the collection of short stories coming out in December. I feel that he did an excellent job with Kenobi in A New Dawn, and that he's been underappreciated for the past few years. I was thrilled to learn that Jason Fry would be heading up the novelization of The Last Jedi, and I feel confident that he will do a good job. He has done multiple projects for Star Wars, but has not really received all that much recognition for it. Lastly, I went to a bookstore at 901, it opened at 9, and bought Inferno Squad and absolutely loved it. I am a third of the way through and believe that Christy Golden knocked Dark Disciple out of the park and has done it again with Inferno Squad. Love listening to you guys dissecting D23, and thank you for reading my email. Well, you are absolutely welcome. I am also knee-deep into Inferno Squad. Can't wait to finish that and get in more on the conversation. I know Christy Golden wrote Dark Disciple, as you mentioned. That is my second favorite novel in the new era. More John Jackson Miller and more Jason Fry. It's great news. So a huge thank you to Luke Siders and Joel Stinson for having a cup of coffee with me. Where can listeners get in touch with each of you if they want to ask you a question or just say hello?
Yeah, you can get us at CantinaCastFanMail@gmail.com, and you can find us on Twitter at the CantinaCast and Instagram at the CantinaCast. We love Instagram, guys, so just hit us up there, and you can find our podcast, the CantinaCast, on any of your podcatchers, and that's basically it.
So for Legends Library, we have Legends Library Podcast on Facebook. And then it's Legends Library on Twitter. That's where we have the most action. And then Legends Library at coffeewithkenobi.com if you want to shoot us an email. Stay tuned, because in the next couple months we're going to be having our Legends Library card again this year, where we do a drawing and the winner gets to pick a book they want to review, and they come on the show with me and Randy. So stay tuned for that.
Which is super cool. Thank you to each and every one of you for listening to and supporting Coffee with Kenobi and for contributing to Star Wars Conversation. We will be back next week with 2 new co-hosts and more Star Wars talk. This is the podcast you're looking for.
This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or Lucasfilm Limited. It is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars, all names, sounds, and any other Star Wars-related items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Disney and their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Coffee with Kenobi unless otherwise indicated.
This is the podcast you're looking for.
There's no one here.